Across Europe, Asia and the North Atlantic world, wooden structures built centuries ago still stand in places where modern lumber quietly fails. Roof beams, darkened by age, remain solid. Bridge timbers pulled from riverbeds emerge intact. Posts set into damp ground outlast entire buildings raised around them. This durability was not accidental, and, well, it was not achieved with modern chemicals. Ancient builders followed a disciplined method that addressed rot at its source. They did not attempt to seal wood away from nature. Instead, they changed the conditions that make decay possible. Once understood, this ancient trick explains why some wood survives for generations, while other wood collapses within a lifetime. Ancient builders treated rot as a biological enemy, not a surface flaw. You know, rot is not simply wood getting wet. It's actually a living process driven by fungi that consume sugars and cellulose. Ancient builders, well, they may not have known the science behind it, but they certainly understood the behaviour. Wood that stayed sweet and damp, well, it decayed. But wood that dried quickly or became chemically hostile, that endured. Their solution really focused on denying fungi food, stability and access, rather than trying to block water entirely. This perspective, you see, shaped every stage of construction. Preservation was not something added at the end. In fact, it began before the tree was cut and continued through design, treatment and maintenance. The first step was harvesting wood when decay organisms were already at a disadvantage. Ancient carpenters consistently harvested trees during dormant seasons, usually late autumn or winter. At this time, sap levels were at their lowest. Sap contains sugars that attract insects and feed fungi. By cutting trees when sap had withdrawn, builders reduced the internal food supply that rot depends on. After felling, wood was never rushed into service. Logs and beams were air-seasoned slowly, stacked to allow airflow while sheltered from direct rain. This gradual drying preserved internal structure and prevented cracking that later traps moisture. Modern builders can actually apply this immediately by cutting wood during dormant seasons and, allowing extended air drying when longevity really matters. The core trick, honestly, was altering wood chemistry using minerals and alkalinity. One of the most effective ancient rot prevention methods involved exposing timber to alkaline substances derived from lime and wood ash. Lime was widely used in ancient construction for mortar and plaster, while ash was an everyday byproduct of heating and cooking. When wood was brushed, washed or stored in environments rich in these minerals, its surface chemistry changed. Fungi thrive in slightly acidic conditions. Alkaline environments disrupt their ability to grow and digest wood fibers. By raising the pH of the wood itself, ancient builders created material that resisted decay even in damp settings. In practice, beams were repeatedly coated with lime wash, especially in barns, halls and timber frames. Some wood was cleaned or soaked in ash-rich water before construction. These treatments did not form brittle shells. They changed the biological compatibility of the wood. A modern application is simple. Hardwood ash can be mixed with water, strained and brushed onto unfinished wood. Lime wash can be applied in thin layers to structural timber in shaded or enclosed areas where moisture lingers. These methods remain breathable, renewable, and, really quite effective. Fire reinforced protection where moisture pressure was highest. Light charring destroyed fungal spores, closed surface pores, and created a carbon-rich layer insects could not digest. This layer repelled water while allowing internal moisture to escape. Posts set into soil beams near ground level and structural elements exposed to splash zones were commonly treated this way. The goal was not burning for strength, but transformation of the surface into a hostile environment for decay. To apply this today, lightly burn the surface of dry wood until it blackens evenly, then brush off loose ash. This can be followed by ash water or lime wash once cooled, recreating the ancient layered defense. Natural chemical reactions strengthen joints instead of weakening them. Ancient builders frequently paired iron fasteners with tannin-rich woods such as oak and chestnut. When iron oxidizes in contact with tannins, it forms iron tannate, a compound that's actually resistant to decay organisms. This reaction, darkened the wood but increased durability around joints and fasteners. This explains why ancient beams around iron hardware often remain solid centuries later. Modern builders can actually replicate this by pairing untreated iron with tannin-rich wood, or by applying iron solutions made from iron scraps soaked in vinegar before assembly. The design made sure, really, that the trick could actually work. Ancient wood lasted because, buildings were designed to dry quickly. Beams were lifted off the soil onto stone bases. Roofs were steep and shed water immediately. Eaves extended far beyond the walls. End grain was protected through joinery, rather than just left exposed. Airflow was always considered. Structures were not sealed airtight. They were allowed to breathe. This prevented the stable, damp conditions fungi require to thrive. Treatments worked because, design supported them. Anyone building today can, apply this by making sure wood never sits directly in soil, by allowing ventilation beneath floors, and by protecting those vulnerable grain ends from direct exposure. Why did modern construction abandon what worked for generations? Industrial building these days really tends to prioritize speed, uniformity, and short-term performance. Mineral treatments, seasonal harvesting, and careful design, they actually require patience and knowledge rather than just, factory shortcuts. The ancient trick, interestingly enough, was not abandoned because it failed. It was abandoned because it could not be standardized and sold easily. Why this ancient trick matters now? For restorers, homesteaders, and survival-minded builders, ancient wood preservation offers proven solutions that function without modern supply chains. These methods are repairable, renewable, and supported by centuries of evidence. If this guide deepened your understanding of historical craftsmanship that still solves modern problems, subscribe to The Beginning for more grounded history with real-world value. Share this with anyone who builds, restores, or believes durability matters more than convenience. Knowledge survives when it continues to be used.